More on the hostages. Let's bring in Dr. Olga Kirschbaum-Shirazki, historian and co-founder of the Tel Aviv Review of Books. Doctor, thank you so much for being with us. First of all, there's this 5-day march. It goes from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Talk about the ultimate goals of what is desired to be achieved.
Well, the families would like to meet with the war cabinet, and they would like to know that the Israeli government is doing everything possible to release the hostages. So that is the goal. And in the interim, I think there's another goal, which is to keep in the consciousness not only of Israelis, but the international community, that the release of these hostages is absolutely essential, that the taking of civilian hostages is a war crime, that there's a war crime that Hamas did with the objective of using it as leverage for their military objectives and for getting prisoners of their own, and that this is totally unacceptable. And so I think that there's a dual message here. There's one, an internal one to speak with the Israeli government, and then there is an external one, keeping in international consciousness that this is a war crime and that this is not acceptable in the international community.
Yeah, and talk about the significance as, we took that live look there on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Talk about the significance of both of these major events happening at the same time.
Well, I think that all eyes are on Washington, D.C., and we're seeing the American Jewish community showing their solidarity with Israel, and trying to explain to the world that Israel's fight against Hamas is a just fight, that Hamas is a criminal organization that committed war crimes on multiple levels, whether it's hostage taking, whether it's killing civilians, whether it's crossing an international border, and that Israel has a right to defend itself, and Israel is doing just that, and that the Jewish community stands behind the state of Israel and is saying to the world that they should be standing behind Israel in this. That Israel is, of course, not the only victim of terrorism in the world, and there are many in the international community who understand very well that Israel must fight and defeat Hamas. Now, with the hostages, it is clear that this was a tactic. It was a move that Hamas did deliberately to gain leverage in the criminal ways in which they fight Israel. And so this march is happening at the same time, in the sense, I think, not that there's any contradiction between the fight against Hamas, the military fight, but also to remind the international community that that hostage taking must not be part of war, and also to make sure that Netanyahu is doing everything that he can to bring the hostages home.
And Doctor, as we look on our screen there, and in the largest box on the screen, we obviously see the video, these images coming of the families of the hostages. What are those families feeling at this point? Because it is now more than a month since October 7th. I mean, we're going to 6 weeks now.
Well, desperation, distress, fear. There's already been one hostage reported dead, and it's unclear. The situation is unclear, and they also know what kind of an enemy Hamas is. So I think that there's no doubt that all Israelis, their hearts are with the families. I live in Tel Aviv, where there are posters of hostages all over the city, and we all want them back home now. And for many of us, we are imagining that they are our own children, our own grandparents, our own babies, our own family. So the families are distraught, and most Israelis understand that.
And Dr., you live there in Israel, and you mentioned the posters. And there have been many cases of posters here in the U.S. that have been torn down. Obviously, that is happening here in the U.S., where there are also families that are directly impacted by these hostages being taken. We know what the families here in the States feel like in reaction to that. What is the sentiment in Israel? I mean, is that also like a personal attack to know that this is happening in the States and in other places as well?
I think Israelis are conscious of the fact that there is anti-Semitism around the world. But what is this anti-Semitism? Basically, it's the unwillingness of people to recognize that hostage taking is a war crime. It's the unwillingness to recognize that Hamas has committed war crimes and that it's a criminal organization.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.